We are ready to go racing in touring cars because the qualifying race for the Touring Car Cup as part of the FIA Motorsport Games is on the grid, and it's a really good high-quality entry, this, with the grid 18 strong in terms of nations, with many a championship winner, many a race winner on this grid. Now, there's a sort of format to this, and I say sort of advisedly. This is the qualifying race, which sorts out the grid for the main race. The main race is where the medals come from. So in theory, you want to get through this without too much strife. But the Formula 4 Cup that ran in the same vein didn't get through its qualifying race without strife, and touring car racing is always elbows out. So any suggestion that people are going to bank a grid position here, try and keep out of trouble, might well go out of the window, especially given that you want to be as far up the grid as possible going into the slightly longer main race later on in the day. 25 minutes plus 1 lap, this race. The main race, 30 minutes plus the regulation lap. And it is Belgium, Gilles Magnus, the representative, who lines up on pole position. All of these cars run to the international TCR specification. There are champions, as I say, on the grid, be them European or national or regional champions. So it's a high-quality entry. We'll come to more of that in a moment. But Gilles Magnus on pole position with Tom Coronel lining up alongside him. Gilles Magnus was a race winner at the 2019 edition of the Motorsport Games. He was the silver medalist within the Touring Car Cup, and although he's been racing GT cars mainly this year, he's a very experienced TCR racer, Belgian endurance champion as well. He's raced in TCR Europe, he's raced in the World TCR Cup. So Gilles Magnus certainly starts as one of the favourites, but he was only about a tenth of a second up on Tom Coronel yesterday. Now, to go through Tom's entire CV would take us the 25 minutes plus a lap, but suffice to say, there isn't much he's not driven, there isn't much he's not won, there isn't really much he lacks in terms of experience either. He's a great character, is Tom Coronel, as I'm sure many of you are aware, and certainly when it comes to racecraft, well, he is very much capable of being at the front. Hong Kong, China represented on this grid by Andy Yan, and despite the travel dramas involved for people from that region, it's great to have them here in numbers and cheering on. You can see Andy Yan's car there, in fact number 3, cheering on their fellow countrymen at Hong Kong, China as we get ready to go racing. Andy Yan, TCR Asia champion, but a grid drop of 3 places, incidentally, for impeding another car in the qualifying session yesterday. He impeded Sergio Lopez, the Venezuelan car. So a grid drop for Andy Yan. Now, I mentioned Tom Coronel, and loquacious is one adjective that can be described to him, as you're about to find out. Tom is with Gemma Scott.
Tom, great to see you back competing at the Games once again. You did the inaugural event and you're back competing. How different are the two games?
You know, the first time was, of course, the one in Vallelunga, and you see it's really getting more popular. More countries are entering, more competitors are there. The show is building up big time. You can see it also with the crowd here. No, this is one of those things that you have to build up. It's already big at the moment. So no, it's good to be back here at these Olympics.
Absolutely, and obviously looking behind you, like you say, the crowds are busy, but the grid is busy as well.
Yeah, this makes it interesting for drivers, but also I think for the countries to send their drivers to score as much points, to be in a total ranking. Holland at the moment is P4. The Belgians just overtook us. Well, as you see, my teammate is also Belgium. He's just in front of me, so I got a mission, but no, it's a good atmosphere, and I think that's different than the normal championships. It's just a one-off, and that makes everybody smile.
Wonderful to see all the orange again as well. Yep. Thank you very much, Tom. Well, Tom mentioned his teammate there, and I'm just going to head over this way to see if we can grab a quick word with Gilles, of course. I think he's just down this way. Here he is. I spoke to him yesterday, actually, and he was really on good form and having a great time. Very proud to be representing Belgium. Gilles, we meet again down here on the pole position. We've just spoken to your teammate, Tom. He's got a bit of fighting talk there. I think you might have a battle into the first corner, even though you're teammates.
Let's hope not. So I think a good start will be crucial as always. It's only the qualifying race, so finishing first of all will be important. Not doing any mistakes, not having any damage on the car, as we have not a lot of time between the qualifying race and the main race. So my objective is just finishing, and obviously I want to finish first. But if it's second, then it's second. I won't take any risk.
Well, you're starting on cold tyres. How difficult is that?
Well, we got a big lap here. Paul Ricard is very long to heat up the tires, so I'm not worried about that either. It's quite hot, so yeah, we'll be fine.
And we saw some very, very close racing behind you yesterday. Obviously, you were way out in front dominating, but touring cars are renowned for being very close.
Exactly, that's why it's fun for the fans to watch. So I'm excited to race, and the guys should be excited to watch as well.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
So Gilles Magnus certainly starting as one of the favourites, but it's a very Benelux front of the grid, isn't it? Belgium and the Netherlands on that front row. There for Argentina, number 29, that is Ignacio Montenegro, who has been a single-seater racer in the Spanish F4 Championship before switching to touring cars both in Europe and South America, and he starts 6th on the grid, the Argentine driver. He'll be certainly a man to watch over the course of the next 25 minutes plus 1 lap. Now, we also have Irish representation on the grid. Jack Young, very much a tin-top star, starting 3rd on the grid. Jack is with Gemma.
Well, we've heard from our 2 front sitters there, 1st and 2nd. Let's have a chat now with Jack Young, who is in 3rd, representing Ireland. Jack, you've got a fierce pairing ahead of us. We've been having a bit of fighting talk, but here representing Ireland, what are we looking for into turn 1?
Well, jump them off the start would be very nice, but no, the Irish have been fast all weekend, and it's been very, very close between them and me. A 10th covered us all yesterday, so I think it's going to be an interesting race, but a feisty one at the same time.
What does it mean to you to be representing Ireland?
Everything. You know, I'm here representing my country, and the other 2 are doing the same, and I think that they'll not be working together as much today as a normal championship, so maybe that'll help us, and maybe we can take advantage of that, and yeah, see how it goes.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. It's great to speak to you. The 3-minute board has just gone up, so let's see if we can find anybody else to talk to, but I think they are clearing out the grid. This is going to be a great race.
You're right, it is going to be a great race, and it is only the qualifying race. I was saying a moment ago, John, that people in this may well be thinking, yeah, let's just get through without trouble. Well, we suggested that for the Formula 4 qualifying race yesterday, and it went out of the window at the first corner.
I mean, inevitably, it's always going to be the same. As soon as the lights go out, the red mist comes down, and they're all racers at heart, and they want to be first into turn 1, but more importantly, they want to be the first car to take the checkered flag. But I would anticipate, just looking at the grid, it's going to be a battle of the front 2 rows. Those behind may be there to pick up if there's any remnants to be picked up. But certainly looking at the Swedish entry, and Andres Backman in an Audi, and I mean, that was very quick. And of course, the car that's on pole position, Gilles Magnus, likewise in an Audi. But my countryman, you know, Jack Young, directly behind him. He'll only have to get a sniff of an opportunity, and there'll be hips and shoulders all the way around the opening lap from these TCR touring cars.
We haven't yet touched on, but we ought to, the United Kingdom representative in this, which is Chris Smiley, who has won the TCR UK Championship. Chris, who you might remember from the British Touring Car Championship, his car run by Restart Racing, Bert Taylor's team, and it's been a great season for the pair of them. Bert, who was taken quite seriously ill a couple of years ago, and he's come back from his illness to restart a team called Restart Racing, and he and Chris Smiley taking TCR UK. They won that just last week at Snetterton, and here they are representing the United Kingdom. Chris Smiley starting a little bit further back on the grid than he would wish to be, but he's never raced here before, and he'll be making progress, I'm sure, as the race gets underway. He is going to be starting 15th out of the 18. The grid is now being cleared. John Watson and David Addison are trackside, and very shortly the green flag lap is going to be underway. Tom Coronel then 2nd on the grid. It's a 1-by-1 staggered grid. It's a standing start. Of course, another of the nice elements of this, and John's touched on it, is that it's not a one-make category. Yes, they're all to a technical spec, 2-litre turbocharged cars, but there are different brands on this grid. You've got the Cupras, you've got the Hondas, you've got the Audi, and there's Peugeot as well. So there's this inter-marque battle as much as the inter-nations and the drivers' rivalry as well.
Well, it's the first time I've seen these cars physically. I've seen them obviously on TV when there's been race broadcast, but actually seeing them physically, and I was very impressed. They are proper touring car, race touring cars, and I think all the manufacturers who are responsible for producing these have done an excellent job.
I mean, there are other touring car rule sets around, in the UK, for example, but TCR, which was the brainchild of Marcello Lotti, who was the man behind the last iteration of the European Touring Car Championship, the World Touring Car Championship, he has been the architect of this, and it's a franchised operation that is now popular around the world. Now, there's one car that's stranded on the grid, which looks like it's Brazil to me, and everybody gets away, and you'll be able to see just in a moment over the brow there is a stranded car. That is Brazil, and if everybody gets away with you being left on the grid, then you're going to have to start at the very back. So Brazil giving away the grid position. That's Rafael Reis, who has not got away, and the marshals rush to his aid, but I think they're going to have to push him from the grid, and he'll start from the pit lane. Gilles Magnus then will start on pole position for Belgium. Netherlands on the front row too. That's Tom Coronel behind the wheel. Starting third for Ireland is Jack Young, and for Sweden it is Andreas Bachmann. Lining up fifth there is Spain, and it is Isidro Callejas who will drive, and for Argentina you have Ignacio Montenegro alongside. France are represented by Teddy Claret, Latvia by Valtteri Svidris. The Swiss athlete is Gabriel Lusquinos, and he will line up 9th. 10th would have been Rafael Reis de Sa. 11th with a 3-place grid drop for impeding is Andy Yan. And the man he impeded is 12th, and that is Venezuela's Sergio Lopez. For Canada, there's Travis Hill, and for Italy, Giacomo Germandi. For the United Kingdom, starting 15th, Chris Smiley, one to watch. And then you have Norwegian Didrik Esbjerg next on the grid. For Ukraine, there's Pablo Chabanov, and Aaron Cameron, the Australian, has to start at the back of the grid because of an engine change in his Peugeot.
Well, that'll be a disappointment. Peugeot have been real stalwarts of this championship, and championships all the way throughout France as well. But it is the Belgian Audi, followed by the Dutch Audi, followed by Honda and another Audi. So Audi look like they've got a bit of a grip here in Paul Ricard on this particular race. So 30 minutes, a lot can take place.
Absolutely it can, that is for sure. So the cars making their way up through Le Beausset. There's Gabriel Lusquinos then, the Swiss representative, and the driver from TCR South America this year. He's been racing in GT4 in Brazil, but has a Swiss nationality, so he can represent Switzerland as he comes then now up through the last sequence of corners. We've had some really good racing thus far this weekend from the GT and the F4 categories. Touring cars should be no exception. Sergio Lopez for Venezuela turns through and will make his way up towards the grid. He's been a TCR Europe regular, a TCR Spain competitor as well this year, and has also competed in the Italian Championship in the past. But here are two of the real, if you like, three guns at the front of the grid. Gilles Magnus, Tom Coronel, Jack Young you can factor in as well. Jack's been a race winner here in Renault Clios. He's a UK Clio champion. He's been a race winner in the TCR Europe Championship. Brazil, under investigation, did not follow Marshall's instructions. Now, that car set off. I suspect it should have gone to the pit lane and set off from there, but I think it chased the pack. So Rafael Reis may find himself with a penalty here. It matters less in this qualifying race, where at the main race, then he would certainly be in strife. But let's just keep an eye as the grid now starts to form. And there he is. Now, if nothing else, he needs to start at the back of the grid rather than try and go to his grid position. So hopefully the message will have got through. He gets past the safety vehicle, but Rafael Reis needs to stop at the back of the grid, which he is going to do. So that element of the plan is being followed. That's okay. So he will line up then at the rear of the grid as we get set for 25 minutes plus the regulation lap. This is the qualifying race for the Touring Car Cup in the 2022 FIA Motorsport Games. Belgium, Gilles Magnus, Netherlands, Tom Coronel. Lights red, lights out, race start. Good getaway by the Audis from the front of the grid, and a good start also being made by Jack Young as they accelerate down towards turn one. But Coronel for the Netherlands blocks Young for Ireland as they head into the first corner. Andreas Bachmann, the Swedish driver, on the outside line. It's going to be Gilles Magnus that leads the way. Tom Coronel second and Jack Young third, but he's on the wrong line. Sweden up the inside of Ireland there. Ireland comes out ahead, way out wide also. There goes France. That was Teddy Claret's Peugeot exploring every element of Paul Ricard as they drop down to the chicane. Great start by Belgium.
Yes, top three managed to get through pretty cleanly. Jack Young was under threat from the Sweden Audi, but managed to clear that going through the exit of turn two. Now down in to the bottom of the circuit, and the Peugeot climbing all over the Honda, and now back onto turn six. So what you would expect in the middle of the pack, mayhem.
It's all frantic, that is for sure, but they need to keep out of trouble. The point being made on the grid pre-race, there isn't much time between this and the main race, and there is one car with a bit of damage there, and another trailing there, look, off the Audi as they accelerate through. And out of the race are both Pablo Chabanov for Ukraine and Rafael Rice from the back of the grid.
We didn't see where that contact occurred. There was contact under the bottom of the circuit, whether there was two cars or not, difficult to tell. Maybe on the replay we'll get a clearer view.
I don't think they've even got off the line. I think they've been pushed off the grid into the pit lane, because they would have been at the very back of the grid. They didn't get as far as the first sector, that is for sure. Anyway, we'll try and catch up on that. As you see there, going through number 21 with the damage on the front, which is Valtteri Zviedris. And so those two cars confirmed the light went out. They did not move. So another problem of getting the car off the line for Rafael Rice, and the same true for Ukrainian Pablo Chabanov. Fingers crossed they'll do better in the main race, as through to the end of lap 1 they come. And there are cars with mechanical dramas in the pit lane. So Gilles Magnus for Belgium leads the way, is being run out wide. There was Travis Hill, the Canadian, number 17. But a really good first lap, because Belgium, Gilles Magnus, has managed to pull well clear.
Yeah, but Tom Coronel has got the attention of Jack Young coming through to complete lap 1. So Magnus has cleared the second and third place battle. And that's a pretty good opening lap for the Belgian to do that, get that kind of gap. He's over a second, 1.5 seconds in fact. And you can see Jack Young's having to pull in behind Tom Coronel. Couldn't do anything about the pace of the Dutchman down, start, finish straight into turn 1.
So the cars turn into the turn 1-2 Verrières sequence of corners. Leaping up over the curb there was the Spanish driver. That is Isidro Callejas, who was 7th at the start of the lap, having dropped back behind the Argentine driver, number 29, Ignacio Montenegro. And this is Callejas' view as they wriggle out of the chicane. Remember, keep out of trouble in this race. Yes, you want to be as far up the order as you can be for a grid position, but you do not need a damaged car. For the UK, Chris Smiley is up into 12th. There, going through 13th now, Travis Hill. So the Canadian driver in the body of the pack as the field accelerates once more onto the Mistral straight, with Gilles Magnus ahead by 1.5 seconds at the end of the first lap. Replay of dramas here at the end of the lap. That is the Italian Giacomo Ghermandi going on the inside of Travis Hill, but then he goes out wide, and it's the Norwegian driver Didrik Esbjerg that got a tap in the tail from Aaron Cameron.
The Australia car also managed to gain a position on the exit of turn 1, but here we are now through the chicane on the middle of lap 2. Gilles Magnus has that 1.5 second advantage on the opening lap. Now Coronel, Young, can they begin to claw back that initial advantage that Magnus had built up? Maybe Magnus is just a little bit sharper when he comes to those opening laps on a set of tyres that are not fully yet up to tyre temperature.
That's Andy Yan for Hong Kong, the TCR Asia champion back in 2016, Chinese touring car champion. And a yellow flag being waved there. A bit of debris on the road as well. So yellow flag out, and debris on the track at turn 5, as well as what you can see there. So that yellow flag is being waved as the cars come through towards us, but I'm trying to work out exactly why there is a yellow there.
Well, the debris certainly may have been one of the reasons, but I assumed when I waved yellow flag, there's a car in a difficult position, so be prepared to slow down. But it doesn't seem to have had much effect so far on the lead car. Magnus has gone through second and third pretty much as they were a lap ago.
Yeah, trying to work out who it is that's gone missing, therefore, but as yet no suggestion that a car is off the road. So it is Belgium leading the Netherlands, leading Ireland. In 4th place, Sweden. 5th, France. And then in 6th place, there is Argentina ahead of Spain. In 8th place, there's Hong Kong, China, then Latvia, and then Switzerland.
Well, the good news is that second and third have managed to peg Magnus's lead. So it was 1.5 seconds at the end of the first lap. It's 1.5 seconds at the end of the second lap. So that initial rush that Magnus had, he hasn't been able to carry forward in this second lap.
And there, look, is the battle for second place, which might help Gilles Magnus for Belgium a little bit. There's a big dive up the inside there. Lithuania clatters up the inside, and that forces Hong Kong, China out wide. So robust stuff there. Latvia through on the inside. That was Valtteri Zviedris that goes through and gains a place, but that might get looked at. You could argue it's a bit robust. You could also argue that was a proper touring car move.
I think it was more like a proper touring car move, but anything else that we would consider robust.
Indeed, yes. So we've got an incident being looked at between Australia and Norway. That was the one we saw coming out of the Virage Dupont. Diederik Esbjerg getting roughed up a bit by Aaron Cameron. So there is the leader. That's Belgium. That is Gilles Magnus, who comes into this very much as one of the favourites, and he's building that gap over Tom Coronel for the Netherlands. Ireland third. That is Jack Young as the rest of the field comes streaming through. Bit of damage on the side of Spain there. That's the car of Isidro Callejas, and he in turn has got himself up past Argentina now. So Montenegro drops back. There you can see the damage on that left front corner. It's not slowing him much, as I say, he's just gained a place. And through comes then Callejas. Montenegro for Argentina, if you follow me, is there behind him. And Andy Jan is trying to fight back as the cars turn through. Right, this was the opening lap of the race. And the Spanish car on the tail. Drops down, oh yeah, up the inside of the traffic, but that's sort of like a tin can, peel back the bodywork.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dive down the inside. A legitimate move, but the consequence was he did rip a bit of the bodywork away, carbon fibre front wings. So let's look and see.
This is onboard Spain.
There we go now, down the inside. And that's going to be where the damage was done.
So brave stuff by Isidro Callejas. Gained the place, as there, Tom Coronel, I would offer you, is getting away a bit from Jack Young now.
And Jack Young way wide coming out of turn 2. So Canada's got a problem. That looks like it's putting over.
Yeah, that's coming towards pit in, so the only consolation is he can hopefully return the car to the team quickly, then they can get to work on that, but that's a third retirement. We lost, of course, Brazil and Ukraine even before the race properly got underway. Right, so Gilles Magnus leading by a second and a half. Tom Coronel for the Netherlands was 6 tenths up on Ireland, and that gap is set to grow a little bit further as well as the field go through. Still 17 minutes plus that regulation lap to go. Battle developing there, look. Sweden versus France for 4th place.
Yeah, Backman I thought might have been able to carry his pace and run with the top 4, be the 4th of the top 4, but he's fallen away just over 2 seconds behind Jack Young in 3rd place, and Jack Young a further half a second plus behind. But there is the 4th place Backman, and he is under threat from Claret in 5th place.
So to the Mistral straight they go once again then. The cars sprint their way up towards the right of Senior. And so through goes Belgium, from Holland, from Ireland in 3rd place. And there, the very spectacular Teddy Claret for France turns through in 5th place, inching up onto the back of Andreas Backman then, the Swedish representative, who has been a rallycrosser, a karter, an ice racer, and a regular gun in touring car racing, Andreas Backman. So he perhaps going into the main race will be another factor here. He's banking 4th for a 2nd row grid position and keeping the Peugeot of Teddy Claret, the French driver, at bay.
I mentioned this yesterday, I do love Peugeot. I wish they were a little bit further up in the field to challenge the Audi and the Honda, but well, we've still got 16 minutes to go. In the meantime, the gap 1st to 2nd is, again, Tom Coronel is keeping Gilles Magnus within that 1.5 second time band. Magnus has got the high ground, he's got the position, and he's got no interference. Comes across the line to go on lap 4, and what's the gap? Well, down to 1.4. So Coronel has taken 1/10 of a second out of Magnus's lead.
He has indeed. Gilles Magnus has done the fastest lap of the race. Now have a look at the Peugeot of France. Teddy Claret has caught right up onto the back of Andreas Backman going down towards turn 1. The margin was 0.6 of a second when they went over the line, but that's come down a little bit more to the eye as Gilles Magnus presses on. But really, Coronel is being helped now that he's shaken off Jack Young. He can concentrate on what's ahead, not behind.
Yeah, Jack Young hasn't been able to maintain the pace of the 2 leading Audis, and Tom Coronel, now that he's broken that sort of having to keep an eye on my mirror as well as looking directly ahead of me to see where Magnus is, I can now focus on trying to cut down that 1.4 second advantage. There is Coronel, there is Jack Young, there is Backman, and directly behind him, Claret in the Peugeot.
So Andreas Backman through the approach to the chicane on the Mistral, then running in 4th place in the Audi RS3 LMS TCR. His car from Sweden, run by the very successful ComTU Racing team, and there the Irish driver Jack Young in the ALM Motorsport operated Honda, a car he's familiar with from TCR Europe, but he's dropping away from Coronel now, and in the 1st sector of the lap Tom was slightly down on Gilles Magnus, but the Netherlands athlete quicker in sector 2 But yes, Jack Young is falling away a little, but still, of course, working towards the main race. All of this will be useful for data, for setup, and any tweaks that can be made might stand him in good stead. Now there, look, Venezuela versus Switzerland, and to the inside line dives Gabriel Quinos. A contact is made, and Venezuela gets turned around the front. A big, big spin for Sergio Lopez. Thankfully, everybody misses him.
And that was all the fault of Venezuela. They pulled sharply across the front, and as a consequence, the contact occurred. So I would have to say, you're master of your own destiny in that particular incident.
Well, through survives Gabriel Quinos for Switzerland. We'll have another look at that. Venezuela back in the race, but here's the move, John.
So waiting for them side by side on the exit. Look how much Venezuela pulls across. What are you going to do?
There's nowhere that Switzerland could go.
Absolutely not.
So big, big spin. Thankfully, not that much damage down to the Venezuela entry, but it's a high-speed part of the circuit, that.
Yeah, but the tires will be a bit sort of squared off, I would imagine, as a consequence of that high-speed spin.
And bear in mind that you've got that red and blue painted section as the runoff instead of grass or gravel here. It's this very abrasive paint to slow the cars down. It did its job, but as John's just made the point, won't have done those tyres much good. So Venezuela, as a consequence of all of that, drops down to 12th, and the car of Switzerland is in 10th place. Chris Smiley is up into 11th for the UK, so he's gained ground. And there for Italy is Giacomo Ghinandi coming up to have a go at Venezuela. Sergio Lopez fending him off as they drop into the chicane, but that Venezuelan car's tyres are not going to be in the best of state. You get 18 dry tyres to get you through free practice, qualifying, and the 2 races.
So having to regroup, having had that high-speed spin, and under pressure immediately. Whether now the performance will be affected by potentially an out of round, more square-like set of Pirelli tyres. Wait to see. But it'll take a lap for him to get his head sorted out and get over the emotion of what occurred. He'll say, it wasn't my fault, he hit me. Well, look at the review and take your own judgment. In the meantime, the race lead has begun to extend. Gilles Magnus has actually pulled out just about 0.3 of a second, so he's stretching that advantage over Tom Coronel, who's got a slightly more comfortable 1.5 second advantage over Jack Young in 3rd place in the Team Ireland Irish Honda.
As they're going through is the Team UK Honda of Chris Smiley, running in 11th place right now at a circuit he's never raced at before, which is true of many of the athletes within the FIA Motorsport Games. It's impossible to find a venue that nobody has competed at, so there are always going to be people that are at a disadvantage with lack of circuit knowledge, but what's fascinating is to see how quickly they can adapt to a new venue. This is Andreas Bachmann then, who comes through for Sweden in 4th place. He was under attack a lap ago from France. Teddy Claret was right up behind him. But for the moment, the Audi looking as though it's just extended its advantage over the Peugeot, which means Sweden is still 4th, France is 5th. As up front, Belgium leads the way. They don't just produce the best beer, they produce very good touring car drivers as well. 2.8 seconds to the good is Gilles Magnus now.
Well, that's a lot of time. That's a second over the last lap that Magnus has pulled on Tom Coronel, and the gap between 2nd and 3rd has equally stretched out. Jack Young 2.5 seconds behind. So for some reason, Magnus has found pace, and Coronel has found pace, and Jack Young, well, all 3 of them are finding pace, but the gaps are actually increasing between each of those 3 competitors.
So as the cars accelerate now down into the Virage du Camp, there is Teddy Claret in the Peugeot. That's France, remember, and 5th he is, but he's being caught.
So I wonder whether Claret is only 0.9 of a second behind Bachmann. Bachmann's only 1.7 seconds behind Jack Young in 3rd place. I think that that final medal position is up for grabs. We've only got 10 minutes of this race remaining, but it's not impossible that Jack Young may not or could be caught with 10 minutes to go.
You're right, and this in 6th place is Isidro Callejas for Spain. He's only 1 second back from Teddy Claret, and that gap looks like it's coming down, doesn't it? Because he's taken 0.3 out in the 1st sector. So 4th, 5th, 6th, concertinaing and closing on Jack Young, whose last lap was a 2:15. But Andreas Bachmann is lapping quicker than everybody else at the moment, except for the leader ahead of him. That's proof that the gap is coming down, and Bachmann is taking with him Claret and a really hustling Callejas, the Spanish driver, who's there in 6th.
Yeah, 4th, 5th and 6th is going to be a really... Oh, bodywork somehow. That was on the racetrack that's been kicked up, but it's just caught the side of the damaged front wing on the Spain entry. So there, the gaps between 6th and 5th, and all going favourably towards Spain. Claret being caught now within striking distance for the rather sort of beaten up left front of the Spanish car.
So you're riding on board with Isidro Callejas, the Spanish driver, inching up onto the back of Teddy Claret, who drives for France, and in turn that should take pressure off Bachmann, but you can see ahead of Bachmann where Jack Young is. So third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all Constantino going to dive to the inside. Spain goes ahead on the inside of France. Good move.
Yeah, a bit of a no-brainer. You could see it already being thought out, worked out, coming into that final turn. Now Leclerc is coming back because he had the better exit off that final turn. So that's the consequence of making a dive down the inside. You compromise your exit, and the car, if you can get the undercut, but a side-by-side up into, and Spain has managed to claw back and now can basically consolidate and think about moving forward, and has Bachmann very much in the sights representing Sweden.
So the trim trails on the side of Spain, but up into fifth place, Isidro Callejas. Next target, Andreas Bachmann, and a big slide as Callejas has to hang on to the Cupra, diving down then through turns 4 and 5 now, but Jack Young is a second and a half ahead of Bachmann. Bachmann is a second and a half ahead of these two, and these two crossed the line side by side. It was a thousandth of a second between them going on to this lap, but now I think Spain will get away from France.
Yeah, Spain has done the hard yards and made the pass initially, coming through turn 15, then side by side up into turn 1. But we're all in the right part of the racetrack. Is that Bachmann going slow? Is that the Swedish car, or is that another rider? I just saw going very slowly on the straight.
It is Bachmann, I think. Yes, you're right. So Andreas Bachmann from fourth is in strife, and France round the outside of Spain. Fantastic. Teddy Claret goes right round the outside, gets the job done. Fabulous.
Where did that all come from? Was that a function of looking at the Swedish Audi going slowly, and all of a sudden France got the benefit of it? I don't know, but all of a sudden France is now back ahead of Spain. I thought Spain had it all done and dusted, but not the case for France. They saw the opportunity, made it work. Now Spain coming back through scene. Watch for a move down the inside into Le Bousset. He's too far behind at this point, but can he slide up the inside? There's the I don't know what's happened to Sweden, but they're running much more slowly and heading into the pits.
So that's another car with mechanical woes. We've seen that for Ukraine, we've seen it for Brazil, now for Sweden. So having been saying that Bachmann was closing on Ireland, Jack Young, now he's in limp home mode. That's Chris Smiley for the UK that's gone through up into the top 10, and big disappointment for Sweden. Canada out of the race as well. So there's going to be quite a bit of activity for the teams to do between races.
So having had that car drop out, now what's that going to do to Jack Young's, at present, I would say, relatively safe, the 6 minutes, just over 6 minutes to go. Third place is Claret, and again the French and Spain battling each other, which is wonderful to watch. But I mean, Jack Young sitting back thinking, well, thank goodness they're in their own little inter-nation battle, because that's going to allow me to drive away, hopefully, and consolidate my bronze position. My bronze finishing position.
We've got 4 cars in mechanical strife out of this race, and 3 of them are Audis run by the ComTU racing team. Read into that what you will, but Canada, Sweden and Ukraine all out of the race in the pit lane, all with mechanical woes, all out of the same stable.
I'm not a very good reader, David. Tell me what you're saying.
There's a pattern. There's something linking all of those elements.
Look at this battle. Isn't that great?
These two are linked, aren't they? France and Spain. Isidro Callejas for Spain has got ahead of this Peugeot already. He wants to do it again, but you've got a really good racer with home knowledge here. Teddy Claret, he's a proper touring car racer, isn't he?
Yeah, it was great, man. That pass 1 lap ago began on this part of the racetrack, coming down into the chicane, went the long way around, then put himself in the pound seat when you go right. Claret now defending, having to go back to the right-hand side to ensure he gets a clean entry into the chicane, and really that would be frustrating. Callejas in the rather tatty looking, bodywork falling off virtually by the lap now. And whether that's having a bearing on the car's straight line performance, well, maybe fractionally, but at the minute right now, Claret has got back. He's in 4th position because of the retirement of Bachmann, and Claret is 4.5 seconds behind Jack Young, so I reckon Young is safe in 3rd position. It'll be a battle finally for 4th between France and Spain.
And the Spanish car getting lighter all the time as more bits fall from the front of the Cupra. But Teddy Claret, yeah, I think he's not going to catch Jack Young because he's having to defend again from Spain. France ahead, Spain right up behind. This is the fight for 4th, and remember, this is only to sort out the grid for the main race. But you've got 2 really feisty drivers here. Now, having talked about the fact that those Audis of the ComTU team have dropped out, it's ComTU Audis 1st and 2nd, hoping to survive as with 5 minutes to go. Spain crawling all over the back of France. Teddy Claret covers off the inside line on this lap, and there's absolutely no way that Spain's Isidro Callejas can find a way through, as that is Andreas Bachmann, very disappointed out of the race.
Well, trying to make the undercut coming off turn 15 didn't quite work, so Claret has got to get the track position he wants to enter turn 1, and the Spanish Supra behind, not able to dive down the inside.
This battle is now for third place, effectively, because Jack Young has got a 5-second time penalty for track limit abuses, the Irish driver. So he's 4.4 seconds ahead of Claret. At the 5, these two are going to jump ahead of him, so it becomes the fight for third place for the inside of the second row of the grid, as you've got Italy, Venezuela and Australia here, all battling together for 11th, 12th and 13th places. And we've just had a change for 12th. Venezuela ahead of Australia, Sergio Lopez ahead of Aaron Cameron.
And looking down, a little bit further down, I thought maybe at one point Argentina, which is now in 6th place, might have had a chance to catch Spain, but the gap's 2.5 seconds with 3 minutes and a bit over, so it's probably unlikely. But for a brief moment, I thought Argentina could join into that battle for 4th and 5th position.
So the car's making the run once again up towards the Mistral. There's the penalised Irish driver, Jack Young. Bit of damage on the back of the car as well. But now he's going to have to push. He's only got to find another 0.6 of a second, and he's secure in his third place. But he can't afford to lose any ground whatsoever. He is down to 4.3 seconds ahead at the moment on that live gap. So effectively, he is losing touch with Coronel. He is dropping into the clutches of a charging France, Teddy Claret. So Jack Young is set to drop on the grid.
And this battle has been the highlight of the race, I think, for me. And both drivers have never given an inch and raced hard but fair. But Jack Young needs, again, 5-second time penalty for the Irish entry, and as you point out, he's only 4.4 seconds to the advantage, so Claret clearly has got the potential to be the final podium medal winner.
Last time Teddy Claret lapped quicker, and Isidro Callejas lapped even quicker still. So it is 2.5 minutes to go as they come over the timing line, plus the regulation lap at the end. Remember, this is just sorting out the grid for that main race. So Jack Young will potentially drop a row. The medals come on that main race. It's not, as we had last time in the Motorsport Games, points scored across the two. It is just a medal apportioning race, which is a lot more simple this year, the format being a better one in that respect. Now, Jack Young, 4.3 seconds ahead, and he's going to lose 2 places if that gap remains as it is.
Needs to find a bit of pace with 2 minutes remaining, and if he hasn't found it now, there's the likelihood of it developing. You can see just how close they are now to. In fact, they only have to get within 4 seconds, and that's the done deal because the 5-second penalty. Yeah. Oh, look, side by side again. Spain coming back, more bodywork. Oh, this is getting a bit personal, I think, now.
Through he has gone, so Spain ahead of France, but that's all going to help Jack Young. If these two hold each other up, he's going to be able to hang on to his third place.
Well, that's the only hope that Jack Young, I think, has. Yeah. If these two keep knocking bits of bodywork off each other, that might give Jack Young that 1/10 or 2 or 4/10 of a second that he needs to just secure his third place, that bronze medal. Down again the inside, Spain and Claret will come back. You can see how he's moving the Peugeot around to try and get the best exit now. And we saw other moments in this race where Claret had a slight speed advantage on the Mistral straight.
So both of the cars now looking a bit dog-eared. Spain goes defensive as they come up towards Senior. To the outside line goes Claret. He needs the inside line into the next corner of Le Beausset. France exits Senior really rapidly. No gap on the inside there. The clock ticking down to 0. Remember, there's a regulation lap at the end of the time, so we're not totally looking at the clock. But Spain again ahead, and Isidro Callejas trying to extend that margin, and in doing so trying to close on Jack Young. But Claret for France is not letting him get away.
No, and I think just looking at that mid-sector time, the advantage has swung back to Team Ireland. So it was 5.3 seconds because of these two going at it, bare knuckle, fighting virtually. And while it's great to watch, it's not doing anything for either two nations to try and secure a bronze medal.
So up towards the timing line they come. So over the line goes Belgium, goes Netherlands, goes Ireland. Is Jack Young coming back at Tom Coronel? He is by half a second, and he's now pulled away from Spain and France. So Jack Young now is secure in that third place. Not bronze yet, bronze in the main race, but third place it is for him, ahead of Spain, France, and then Argentina 6th. And part of that time is his pace quickening, but also the fact that, as John's been saying, they've been delaying themselves behind. So we have got the incidents between France and Spain being looked at by the stewards, and we have got the regulation lap then to come for the drivers. There you've got Spain versus France as they come then up towards the Saint-Baume right-hander, and now I reckon Spain has got this job done. So gapping France is finally Isidro Callejas.
I wonder whether the contact that occurred just one lap earlier coming through the sequence of corners has hurt France more than it has hurt Spain. It was France on the outside, Spain on the inside, muscling all the way through. And whether that's done any damage to the Peugeot or closes up under brakes, mind you, into the chicane. So Claret has not given up, thinking about a move in the middle of the chicane, but that door was well and truly shut before he got there. So he's now got the remaining part of this lap and one further lap to go. And this has allowed Jack Young to escape. He's also picked up his pace. He took half a second out of the advantage of Tom Coronel in second place. So that gap is down to 1.5 seconds, second to third place.
So Jack Young having to push to secure third on the grid for the main race. Remember, this result is only about where you start for the main race, but the pressure is on to qualify effectively as well as you possibly can on that grid to get as far up the order as you can. Andreas Bachmann out of the race will be 15th and therefore one to watch, assuming the car plays ball, into the main race coming up in a couple of hours' time. So here's the leader, Gilles Magnus for Belgium. He's absolutely dominated this race. He's not put a wheel wrong.
No, he's driven absolutely, I mean, an absolute perfect touring car race. Everything he's done, and again, somebody who I'm familiar with only by watching on television, but being here at the event live, an outstanding performance all the way through the weekend from the Belgian.
Somebody that we've seen, of course, in Fanatec GT this season. And a 5-second penalty now for Spain for causing a collision. And a 5-second penalty also for car number 33, Italy, for track limits.
So this is the final lap, and has France got anything left in the tank to come back?
Doesn't matter.
No, he doesn't have to.
The place.
But do you think France has been given that message where they have communicated, don't worry about it, just keep it in the range that you're in, because the Spain car will be getting a 5-second time added to its time. So Claret will end up in 4th position, and the Spanish entry will then drop down. Actually, it might drop down behind. It could easily drop down behind Argentina. And, well, maybe even further. Yeah,
possibly. Might even be mugged by Latvia, so Callejas has got to push on, absolutely no question about it. So it is going to be Belgium from the Netherlands, that Benelux front of the grid for the qualifying race will be a Benelux front to the main race as well. Ireland for 3rd, but then it's going to be time penalties dependent for 4th place, as again Teddy Claret for France closes up onto the tail of Spain into the chicane there.
So Jack Young, I think, is secure in that 3rd place, because 4th place on the road is going to be penalised. And that'll bring Claret up into 4th place, but he's probably about 6.5 seconds now behind 3rd place Jack Young. So Jack Young can breathe, and Claret can think, well, what if and or but I hadn't been involved in this inter-nation battle, maybe I could have found myself in 3rd place overall.
So there is Gilles Magnus then for Belgium, accelerating his way through the Virage de la Tour down towards the Virage du Pont. He has 001 on the Lumi rank. That's his position in the race. That's going to be his position on the grid for the main race. And I suspect he's going to take some stopping when we get to that medal awarding decider. But he's got a corner to go. The checkered flag is at the ready. And honours in the qualifying race for the Touring Car Cup in the FIA Motorsport Games go to Belgium. Gilles Magnus, the driver. A race winner once again in the FIA Motorsport Games, to the delight of the RACB, to the delight of Com2U. He comes across the timing line. Belgium wins, Netherlands, Tom Coronel 2nd, Ireland, Jack Young 3rd. But after that, penalties will be applied. Well, Jack Young gets a penalty, so is he going to survive in that 3rd place? The next car through is another penalised one, so he survives in 3rd. Everybody will come across the line. Then the timing screen will update as you see Australia and Italy battling together. Great livery on the Australian car, as well as the very vibrant Italian colours come out first. It doesn't really say Italy in terms of the tricolore, but it catches your eye. Giacomo Gemendi comes across the line for 12th on the road. Aaron Cameron from the back of the grid, 13th ahead of the Norwegian driver Didrik Esbjerg. We'll go through the result once it is confirmed, and we offer you Gilles Magnus for Belgium, from the Netherlands Tom Coronel, Ireland's Jack Young as the top 3, 4th France, 5th Argentina, and Spain 6th in the end. Lively stuff, eh?
Yeah, I mean, a walk in the park for Gilles Magnus. I mean, a lights out to checkered flag perfection. And it really is impressive the way he's dealt with the competition over the weekend. Never seriously being challenged, okay, in qualifying, that's one thing, but when it comes to the actual event, the race itself, just is able to pull away and does it in a majestic manner, and not a mark on that Belgian Audi entry.
So a race win for Belgium, and Netherlands second, Ireland in third. Great drive, really energetic effort by Teddy Claret for France, taking fourth place, fifth, Argentina and Spain with a penalty, finishing in sixth. Seventh to Latvia from Hong Kong, China in eighth, Switzerland ninth, and the United Kingdom is in 10th. Gilles Magnus, the race winner for Belgium, Tom Coronel, his runner-up, and Jack Young taking third. Teddy Claret fourth, Ignacio Montenegro fifth from Isidro Callejas. Valtteri Zviedris seventh, ahead of Andy Yan for Hong Kong, China, and then Gabriel Dos Quinhos for Switzerland. Chris Smiley for the UK, 10th. Venezuelan Sergio Lopez, 11th. Australia's Aaron Cameron, 12th. Norwegian Didrik Esbjerg, 13th. And for Italy, 14th, Giacomo Germandi. We lost Sweden, Canada, Ukraine, and Brazil. Teams with work to do, ready for the main race, which will be coming up later on in the afternoon. It is 12 o'clock just gone here, but at 2:15 they're going to be back on track, so there's not much time to get those cars race ready.
Well, the bodyworks are relatively easy and straightforward. They can be unattached and reattached with a new panel. But if you've got to do a mechanical change, such as take an engine out or change a gearbox, that's a slightly different prospect. And, well, some of these teams maybe understand what rally teams can do with changing gearboxes in 2 seconds. In a race car, it's a different prospect.
Absolutely, yeah. If it's a mechanical woe, then it's going to be tough for the teams, that is for sure. But fingers crossed, it'll be a full grid for later too. Let's have a look at the highlights then of that qualifying race in the Touring Car Cup. A very colourful, very busy grid with the Benelux front row, with Belgium ahead of Netherlands as they blasted away. Gilles Magnus converting pole position into a lead he was never to lose. The Audi's working well around here, with Jack Young in the Honda doing the chasing. A lively first lap and a bit of damage picked up by Isidro Callejas, who tried to find a gap on the inside, diving down through the traffic. He did gain places, but damaged the bodywork on the left front corner. Worse was to come, because he'd get involved with France and ultimately pick up a penalty. Massive disappointment for Ukrainian Pavlo Chabanov. His car pushed off the grid. Rafa Reis the same, and Sergio Lopez for Venezuela got turned around the front of Gabriel Dos Quinhos of Switzerland and had a big old spin. Teddy Claret did not give up in his quest to get back ahead of the Spanish entry of Callejas, and those two the real stars, as Andreas Bachmann retired from fourth place in the massive disappointment of his team. Bachmann out of the car, out of the race, and giving the squad work to do going into the main race of this afternoon, as a big dive by Venezuela up against Italy saw the two cars rub and lose time at the Virage du Pont. Aaron Cameron for Australia catching back up as everybody watched on, with cracking racing all the way through the order. The only lonely person really, though, was Belgian Gilles Magnus, who was on target for a very dominant race win, and he came through the last corner up to the checkered flag. Mission accomplished. He kept out of trouble. He secured pole position for the main race, and it looks like a gold medal for Belgium may only be a few hours away on that performance. Dominant stuff by Gilles Magnus for Belgium. So the drivers then making their way from the end of that race down through to the teams. The post-race technical checks also from the FIA scrutineering team. The Paul Ricard circuit still very active, even though some disciplines have been completed. The medal table building, of course, nicely, with more and more of the events completed. We had Italy taking gold in the single-seater element, the F4 Cup, this morning, on the back of 2 golds yesterday in rallying, and it'll be potentially a Belgian gold in touring cars later on, the way that Gilles Magnus has been going. Tom Coronel chasing him home for the Netherlands, and although he couldn't catch Gilles, it was a good effort nonetheless. And Tom Coronel is with Gemma Scott.
Well, Tom, you promised us a battle. It was an exciting race, but just can't quite get the edge on Magnus.
No, well, I saw that I had a small battle in the beginning with Jacko Young with the Honda. Then I saw him dropping down, and it's the first time we drive with this Pirelli tire, so we didn't know what was going to happen. So I said, okay, if he pushes, then I do the opposite to see what happens. So the last few laps I pushed also again, and I could see that the bite was there, the overhand on Jack. But yeah, it's just to see how you manage the tire. It's the first time we do 13 laps, so I was, but then in the end I just start pushing it, and we did the same lap times as Magnus. So I think the second race we should push the whole race.
So this is basically giving you time to really get to grips with the car, the setup and everything ready for the medal race.
Yeah, you know, this is the qualification race, so you shouldn't take any risk. But I could see in the first part the Honda is a little bit stronger. I'm a little bit stronger in the second part, so for sure for race 2 I know Jack will attack there. But no, I can see now also that with the Pirelli tire we can attack the whole race, because at the moment I was managing it until the last 2 laps. But no, it's feeling good, car strong, so a medal, that should be okay, but we will fight for the gold one.
We will indeed. Thank you very much, Tom.
No problem.
So illustrating why those gaps were ebbing and flowing, and all of the experience being put to good use there.
Good insight from Tom Coronel, and explaining that they're not familiar with the Pirelli tire. They race on a different tire, and part of all the change is the adaptation and understanding. If you're doing a 13-lap run, which is the duration of this race, they don't know whether the tire will stay with them all the way through. And the conclusion I got from what Tom Coronel said, unless my interpretation of his Dutch English, Swinglish, whatever, is that the tire will stand up to that duration, and Tom Coronel will charge when it comes to the final, the most important race of the day for those medals.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's working towards, doesn't he? And that is going to be that main race. I mentioned the fact that medals were being scored by another gold from Italy this morning. Well, this is how the medal table now stands. Italy has got 3 gold, so has France. Belgium, 1 of each. Germany has got a gold and a silver. Netherlands on a gold and silver as well. The UK has got a gold and a bronze. Latvia a gold. And Spain racking up the medals more than anybody. They haven't got a gold yet. That might change by the end of the afternoon. Czech Republic, Sweden, Turkey, Kuwait, and then Portugal next in the table.
I think for Spain to get a gold medal, certainly in the touring cars, they're going to have to avoid contact. The car certainly look very strong in terms of overall pace, but you can't have a car with half the bodywork hanging off. That's only going to hurt your pace.
True enough. Might get a medal out of the GT Sprint as well, but that's going to come up at the very end of the day on the track. Back to touring cars, Gilles Magnus, race winner, and therefore starts the main race on pole position. Gilles Magnus with Gemma Scott right now.
I've managed to find our winner. A fantastic result for you. We spoke to Tom Coronel just now, and he was saying how he was reserved with the tyres and figuring out how hard he could push. For you, what were you working on there? Were you flat out from the start?
At the start I was flat out for sure. Afterwards I was managing the tyres, and the same thing, yeah, looking how far can you go with these tyres. We don't have a lot of information on the Pirellis, so yeah, looking like how far can I go with him, because the next race is going to be even more long, and that will be the most important. We've topped all sessions till now, but we ain't got anything yet, so it still got to start. So yeah, looking forward to that main race.
Certainly you've been dominant all weekend, really shown that you're a force to be reckoned with, and everybody's struggling to catch you. What would we expect in that medal race now that everybody has got that slight bit more knowledge on the setup and the usage of the tyres?
I think everyone will get closer and closer, and in the main race they will be aggressive from the start on, because they will have to be seeing our pace. So it's not going to be easy. The job hasn't been done yet, so yeah, I expect some action for the main race.
Is it Tom that you see as perhaps your main competition? Who else in the field do you feel is a threat?
I feel Tom and Jack Young are 2 quick guys. For sure there's other quick guys than them, but these 2 are my main competitors, I would say.
And just one last question for you. What's been your overall impression of the Games so far? It's been a fantastic event. There's so much going on. Have you managed to see much else?
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to see different categories, but for sure whenever Belgians are driving I go there and cheer them on. It's an amazing event. I've done it in 2019, it was a lot smaller back then, but now it has grown a lot, and it's still, the organization is still as good. So yeah, amazing. It's unique. It's a unique experience for everyone, and I'm happy to be part of it.
And you've got a lot of competitors with you from Belgium. You're a huge team.
Yeah, exactly. The Belgian Federation has always been a federation who is helping a lot of young drivers, and they represent here at the Motorsport Games as well with a lot of drivers, and that's just good for Belgian motorsport. I'm really happy about it.
Absolutely. Well done once again. Thank you, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Drivers talking about what's coming up, of course, in that main race. One of the fascinations of an event like this is that it's not part of a championship. It is a one-off. You don't have to think about scoring points over the course of 10 races, 20 races, 30 races. It is absolutely flat chat for the medals in that race.
Yeah, that's the big difference, the dynamic that's changed. Gilles Magnus mentioned a longer race. Well, it is longer by 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it might take one more lap out of the tyres, perhaps, or two at most. But it's going to be fascinating to see, with everybody now with a bit more experience on this new Pirelli tyre for the TCR Cup this weekend, and that main race coming up later on. So great action from touring cars. A win for Belgium, for Gilles Magnus in that qualifying race.
So the grid is now set for the touring car race, which is happening later today. Darren, the top three were as we expected, but there was quite a bit going on behind them to try and get their way up the grid.
Yeah, there was. I mean, obviously there's a great battle between France and Spain that ultimately ended up in a penalty for Spain. But, you know, the top three, they're the only guys that were running in the sort of 2 minutes 13s of the finishers, that is. So the pace for those three was fantastic. But maybe Tom, Jack have got something in the bag for the final, because at the moment Magnus is looking so strong for Belgium. It's he's dominated the qualifying sessions and the practice sessions, etc. But he looked like he had it completely under control there. So they've got to find something. You know, both Netherlands and Ireland have got to find something for the main race now.
I'm hearing some lovely engines going out on track. Can you? Sorry if I was slightly distracted there when you were talking, but we've got the GT Sprints coming up next. We've got some great drivers in this discipline.
We have indeed. I mean, the sprint race is going to be great. We've got the qualifying obviously coming up now, but there's lots of platinum, golds, works drivers in there. This is the best of GT racing, effectively, and we can hear them now going down on the warm-up grid, and it sounds fantastic. These cars, the GT3 category itself is amazing, you know, super competitive, and I think, you know, we're going to see some real hot racing coming up later today, because, you know, the guys know exactly what they can get out of these cars. They're very used to these cars. They've been racing them all season, and they know what they're doing out there. So yeah, I think we're in for a spicy race later today. But let's see how qualifying goes.
And it's all on them, one driver. Okay, well, it's the first time we're having GT Sprint here at the FIA Motorsport Games, and qualifying is about to take place right now.
The GT Sprint is new within FIA Motorsport Games, and this is a really fascinating entry. It's not vast, but it's got some real stars of the GT world in it. David Addison and John Watson are trackside. The session only lasts for 20 minutes, and it's already underway. They've had 2 free practice periods this morning, qualifying and a 1-hour race, so everything crammed into a day. They don't need dramas, but they do need a good time out of this. It's wide open, this discipline.
It certainly is. I mean, they were on track at 8:30 this morning, and I mean, you could tell by the signs of the Howling V10s, the flat 6s, the V8s, or whatever. Matt Campbell representing Australia in the Groove Motorsport Porsche. We saw that car being driven by Stephen and Brendan Groove in the Endurance Cup. There is the 71, Lithuania, Audi, and Jutta Racing. So everybody underway. Still no lap time actually recorded, because they're just completing the route laps and completing the out lap and going on to the first flying lap. And hard to choose, David. Who would you? And I don't know. There's all the usual suspects. You've got the Van Thors, you've got the Matt Campbells, you've got Lucas Stolz, Mirko Bortolotti. I mean, those are the names we talk about frequently. And I mean, there are others there that are equally quick.
Well, there for Belgium is Dries Van Thor. The Audi is being run by Santalok. I think that's probably about the only Audi team he's never driven for, but he will this weekend. The French team operate the Belgian car, and Dries Van Thor then is very much a potential winner for his nation, because he was quickest in free practice 2. He did a 2 minutes 2 in that, but quicker in free practice 1. Ayçin Güven for Turkey with the Porsche. that's run by Team Turkey, and Ayşen Güven, it's the TalkSport WRT squad, did a 2 minutes 1. Now, Ayşen Güven, we know he's good because he's been an FIA GT Nations Cup winner in the past in Bahrain. He's a Porsche Super Cup star, Carrera Cup Germany star, GT racer and DTM hero. Mirko Bortolotti, however, here representing Italy, another potential winner.
Yeah, looking resplendent with the tricolore over the bonnet of the Lamborghini. Again, Mirko Bortolotti, real class act when it comes to driving a GT3 car, whether it's in Europe or around the world. And he will undoubtedly be pushing to get the top of the podium for his nation. But, you know, it's a battle. We've mentioned 3 or 4 other names that are equally capable. Slows down, coming up to completion of a lap. Now, we're coming into the pit lane. That's the reason he slowed down.
So in he comes, possibly to download data, maybe to switch tyres around and to then go back out and see what he can do. It's only one race, of course, for these cars. There's no qualifying race, no main race. It is just one sprint, and they get 3 sets of slicks to get them through free practice and qualifying. And then, of course, you need to keep a full, fresh set for the race. Now, France won gold yesterday in the GT Cup. There is Tristan Vautier in the Acodis ASP run car, going for gold for France in sprint. Chinese Taipei has done the target time, 2 minutes 15, but of course you can anticipate these lap times to be quicker than we saw in the GT Cup because you're talking about gold and platinum graded drivers.
Yes, I mean, the time we saw this morning was a 2:01 and a few tenths of a second. Again, temperature is much lower, track temperature, but ambient temperature. We know about Paul Ricard. It is a circuit that has got many personalities, and the one we've got right now, just 15 minutes after midday, will certainly be a warmer track temperature, higher ambient temperature, and a consequence, a different reaction from the car, and in particular the tyre, with the conditions we've got right now. Dani Juncadella sitting behind the wheel of the Spain entry, a man familiar again with the Mercedes-AMG GT3s over a number of years.
Absolutely. Now, Dani Juncadella in FP1 was the slowest, and in FP2 was only 8th. So you get the feeling that they're still sort of working towards getting that car absolutely right. The car being run by the Antonelli Motorsport team. That's the Antonelli that is the family of Kimi Antonelli, who is the gold medalist in the F4 Cup.
You're talking about Italian motorsport royalty there, I think, aren't you?
Running a Spanish entry.
Yeah.
But it's a different team. And of course, you know, with respect, that is a team that may be not operating at the same level, same experience as Acodis might have.
One might say that, and you might be right. So, I mean, while these are all turnkey GT3 cars, within that package you buy, there's a lot of scope for individual preparation and setup as Dries van Thor goes on to complete a flying lap, and this is a serious effort from Dries van Thor. You can see the body language of the car coming into turns 1 and then through 2, sweeping downhill into the quick right-left here at the chicane, and then the very short sprint into turn 5. It's a corner where more haste, less speed, one might say. Be careful of the marker on the inside, then you run the curve, but be careful you don't overrun and find your lap time deleted. So Dries van Thor, neat and tidy through turn 6, absolutely flat out through turn 7, and gets a sort of a momentary breath all the way run down to the chicane.
So Dries van Thor, who knows this car inside out, his link, of course, with Audi's in GT3 racing is coming to an end. WRT, for whom he's been driving, has now finished its programme for the year, electing not to go to the Abu Dhabi 12 hours, for example. So Dries van Thor may well be racing an Audi R8 for the very last time in this event. So it's one he would like to go out with a victory in. Evan Chen for Chinese Taipei, 2 minutes 3.9, has set the target time, but Dries van Thor is ahead of him in both of those sectors.
Yeah, 1.5 seconds, or certainly a second in effect. And now coming into Le Bousset, a corner which goes on and on and on and offers up a lot of options for drivers. And is he backed out of it? I think he's backed out of it, surely. What's he doing? He's wandering around, warming up the tyres. He's got 2 purple sectors, and he's bailed out of the lap. So why has Dries van Thor opted to do so? And he's going to come into the pit lane, or no, he's going to stay out and have a second go. Strange. Purple sectors, first 2 sectors, and he bails.
Right, here's Van Thor then, comes up towards the timing line. That's Tristan Vautier for France, who is looking good as well. We've got Matt Campbell in the pit lane. We've got Mirko Bortolotti in the pit lane for Italy. Vautier is about to put a lap time on the board. Van Thor second fastest, 2 minutes 9. But Vautier should jump that. No, he doesn't. It's a start-up lap for Vautier, 2 minutes 10.
Well, Van Thor's time was totally compromised by the third sector when he backed out of it. On board here with the French Mercedes-AMG GT3 out of turn 2. So his first flying lap, 2 minutes 10. That was a little more than a sighting lap. Now a little bit more serious. Down through 3 and 4. Keep the car to the left as best you can, then make your apex. Avoid the marker on the inside, then runs out to the curbing on the outside. It should be one big arc as you go through 5 and 6. Personal best, sector 1, fastest sector 2.
Right, this is Bruno Baptista for Brazil. Now, he's got an advantage in as much as he raced this car 3 times over Friday and Saturday. So he's got a lot of track knowledge over the weekend and of this car, which is run by the Acodis ASP team. Did have mechanical maladies in the second qualifying race for the GT Cup, as opposed to the GT Sprint Cup, because GT Cup is double drivers and pit stops. This is one driver, no pit stops, but he goes second fastest, Bruno Baptista for Brazil. 2 minutes 2.629 as you look there at Dries Van Thor.
By a significant margin, quickest in sector 1, personal best, sector 2. And it was at this point 1 lap ago he bailed out of it. And he had a purple, and in fact he had 2 purples. This time he decides, I've got what I want from my car, I'm quicker, even though I had purples at that point 1 lap ago. So wonder where the Belgian Audi, the Belgian driver, will end up. 2 minutes 2 is the target time, 2:02.399, established by the 68 Chinese Taipei Ferrari 488. Van Thor exits turn 15.
Right, so he's got to beat 2 minutes 2.399. I reckon he's going to do it because he comes up towards the line now and he breaks the beam at 2 minutes 1.729 to put Belgium on pole position. So Belgium ahead of Chinese Taipei and Brazil. Germany 4th, Lukas Stolz, and then you've got Lithuania 5th.
I think that vindicated Van Thor's reason to bail on that previous lap while he was getting purples, but he maybe felt that there's a lot more in the car, and he's gone and established that fact with now getting a provisional fastest time as we watch Tristan Vautier.
And he's up to 4th then now, 2 minutes 2.737. Bruno Baptista for Brazil, absolute best in the first sector, as is Vautier's view. So France, which has already got gold medals ×3, but no other medals, could be on for a 4th, but Vautier, he's up against it here. Lukas Stolz for Germany, by the way, is only 6th at the moment. Danny Juncadella for Spain is only 8th. And we've not yet had a proper time out of Australia. Matt Campbell, Turkey, Heinz Guven or Italy. Mirko Bortolotti.
So, fastest overall middle sector for the Brazil entered Mercedes-AMG GT3, and a good lap so far from the younger of the 2 Baptista families. Where is he going to finish? Stays 3rd. Waiting to see what the Turkey entered Porsche is going to do, because it's not done a representative flying lap. It's just recorded a 2:09. If you go back to the Brazil Mercedes, as it hops and skips over the curbing, back now to Dries Van Thor. Purple, David.
Should be even quicker then. Is he going to be into the 2:0 mark? I don't think he's going to find that much time, but it should certainly be an improvement as he comes then now down to the Virage du Pont. We've got a time out of Turkey finally. Heinz Guven has starts up that. There's more to come from him. You've got Australia and Italy to look for next, but first we're going to get Belgium over the line. Here is Dries Van Thor, 2 minutes 1.7 to beat. Is this the ideal lap with purple? We'll see in a moment, because he's about to complete sector 3, crosses the line, 2 minutes 1.293. It was a personal but not an absolute best in the last sector, but it still moves 0.6 of a second away from the opposition, with Germany now second. Lukas Stolz for Germany up to second fastest.
Yeah, Lukas Stolz sort of rather sneakily climbed up into second place. We didn't see it on camera, so we had to watch timing and scoring. And still waiting to see where Matt Campbell is, or Mirko Bortolotti. Both have done laps, but not a flying lap. So have they got issues, or are they just hanging back waiting for the opportunity? We've got just over 6 minutes remaining. So they need to be on track pretty quickly if they want to get a chance at deposing that front row, that provisional front row of Van Thor and Stolz for Belgium and Germany respectively.
There is the car that's 5th, now 6th, because Australia has just gone 4th. Matt Campbell's Porsche has gone up to 4th. That's Germany's 2nd, Lukas Stolz. Very much a potential winner of this. We know how good he is. And you've also got Italy up to 7th, Mirko Bortolotti. This lap for Stolz isn't a push lap as such. He did go 2nd last time around, but he's down in that first sector very nearly by half a second.
Yeah, so Stolz pushing, but maybe there's a case of maybe just a little more caution on this lap to see whether he can get some recovery from his Pirelli tyres. And Van Thor likewise is pushing in sector 1, yet again improving with the purple sector, fractionally down in that middle sector. So it's sort of a net position for the Belgian Audi Dries Van Thor behind the wheel.
And Dries Van Thor quicker again in sector 1, but a fraction of time given away in sector 2. Stolz was still actually quicker last time, 2 minutes 1.935. So you've got Belgium, Germany, France, and then here 4th Australia. This car was hustled along yesterday by father and son Stephen and Brenton Grove. It's run by Al Bamba's team, and Matt Campbell behind the wheel of it. It should fly, I would have thought.
Hoping it's going to fly. Got a sweet spot for everything. Every manufacturer a P is the initial, and Porsche is another one of those. So waiting to see if Matt Campbell can deliver middle sector 2, almost 3/10 down, so cancelling out his personal best in sector 1. So it's the conclusion of the lap now in sector 3 for the Australian. Where can this Porsche end up provisionally right now, 2nd row of the grid?
He was a winner here last year in Fanatec GT in the 6R race, so he knows the track, he knows the car, he knows what to expect. He also knows the level of the opposition. So for Australia, Matt Campbell turns now up to the timing line. Formula Ford champion, Carrera Cup Australia champion, Bathurst 12R double winner, Le Mans and Daytona 24 hours class winner. He breaks the beam and goes then 2nd fastest, 2 minutes 1.875. He's on the front row.
That's what I was hoping for. Mirko Bortolotti has improved likewise for Italy in the Lamborghini up to 4th place. Lukas Stolz is between Campbell and Bortolotti. Tristan Vautier in the France Mercedes is down to 5th, and the 68 Chinese Taipei entry down now to 6th.
So there is Bortolotti, and on this lap with an improvement just having come from Aitchen Guven, he's down to 5th. But Van Thor, Campbell, Stolz, Guven, Bortolotti, Vautier, the top 6. Belgium, Australia, Germany, Turkey, Italy, France. And another change because Lukas Stolz goes through and goes back up to 2nd at the expense of Matt Campbell.
So what can we see from this Lamborghini and Mirko Bortolotti representing Italy? And coming through behind is Lukas Stolz in the Team Germany entry. So into the chicane, that was Matt Campbell. Now Mirko Bortolotti. Hard on the brakes, personal best sector 1. So scope there for a further improvement. He needs to find, well, what, a 1/10 of a second to get onto the 2nd row of the grid and depose the Turkish entered Porsche of Aitchen Guven.
And of course, a 60-minute sprint. It is effectively one stint out of a normal, if you like, SRO Fanatec GT race. So they're used to going flat out for an hour, but there'll be no mandatory pit stops in that, as over the timing line has just gone Aitchen Guven, and he's up to 4th quickest. We've not yet really seen much of Turkey. As you look at Italy, Mirko Bortolotti still pressing on. He's done 2 personal bests in sectors. He will possibly squeeze one more lap out of this, because we've only got 2 minutes and change on the clock as he comes then now through the Virage de la Tour. So Mirko Bortolotti, racing in GT and in DTM this year, drifts away from the apex a little bit there, and he's bailed, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. He was wide. The car ran wide on the entry into turn 14, and immediately got out of the throttle because he knew he was going to lose time. Although he had made personal bests in sector 1 and sector 2, he just immediately got out of it, and he's got 2 minutes remaining. He'll get one more flying lap. Depending at which point he would cross the start-finish line, he might get a 2nd one, but I think it's going to be a matter of seconds as to whether he did or he didn't.
Aitchen Guven for Turkey comes across the line. Very, very impressive driver is Aitchen Guven. He's 3rd fastest. That lap was an improvement, 2 minutes 1.692. So you've got Porsche 2nd and 3rd behind Audi of Belgium, but Aitchen Guven here should be a medalist, I would have thought, because he really does know how to rise to the occasion, and very experienced Porsche campaigner, whether it's been in GT races or in one-make categories.
Well, look, I mean, just watching the manner in which he's driving the Porsche, whether he's backed out of it a little bit, as we go back to the Australia entry with Matt Campbell, both an identical Porsche GT3Rs. This is that's 911.2 version.
Yeah.
The new 992, which was previewed, we saw at Spa 24 Hours. Wow, what a bit of engineering that car is. And if that isn't going to be a real hot rod GT3 performer, well, I tell you, it looks stunning, absolutely stunning.
And there'll be plenty of those on different grids next year run by different teams. So there, Matt Campbell pressing on, but he's gained a 10th in Sector 1, but dropped a 10th in Sector 2, and he's got to find 3 tenths to be ahead of Belgium. So Dries van Thor for Belgium is the fastest, but for Australia, with the kangaroo on the side of the car, Matt Campbell comes then now down to the approach to Virage du Pont, the heavy braking of the last corner. He gets there now, he stands on the anchors, he turns it right, he sets the car up. He will just about get one more lap out of this if he wishes it, but he's going to be on the front row for the rolling start provisionally anyway. Comes up towards the line, 2 minutes 1.1 to beat, and the lap is a 2 minutes 1.6, so actually fractionally slower than his earlier best.
He's got one more chance. Here we go. Luca Stolz, personal best in Sectors 1 by nearly half a second. That's a good chunk, a little bit less in Sector 2. So Luca Stolz for Germany, and the Mercedes currently residing on 4th position, provisional 2nd row of the grid. So he needs another personal best. Oh, if he can get a purple, even better. So Luca Stolz working behind the wheel, just having to make minute corrections on the entry into turn 15. Exits the corner hard on the gas. He could do no more than push as hard as the throttle. Brazil follows him through. So Luca Stolz has gone up to 3rd, deposing Ayushin Gavin in the Turkey entry Porsche, as Tristan Vautier currently in 6th place for France in his Mercedes AMG GT3.
So Belgium takes provisional pole position. Is there anybody else looking like they might go quicker? Well, Tristan Vautier gained a bit and then lost twice as much, so he is not going to improve on 6th, I don't believe. The one that still could do something is Matt Campbell, because he's done a personal best within the 1st sector. Germany improved but stays 3rd, Lucas Stolz. Ayushin Gavin in the pits we'd seen. There's Mirko Bortolotti, but he's slower in the 1st sector. There's Vautier quick but then slow, as I'd mentioned, so he comes up to the line. Let's just get him through and see whether, even if he doesn't go for pole, whether he can gain a place on the grid, because he was only 66 thousandths behind Bortolotti, but he does not improve. He gave away, in the end, 13 thousandths of a second, and Matt Campbell has also bailed. Look, he's given out 1.2 seconds in the middle sector, so Matt Campbell has given up on this lap. He will bail and head for the pit lane. So Belgium, Dries van Thor, pole position, in some ways to be expected, but it's going to be a really competitive race, that is for sure, to see how the cars come on strong over the course of an hour.
Of course, they're running on a single set of tyres for that hour. Now, in Fanatec Sprint, they do a sort of dissect an hour by a pit stop and a driver change and whatever.
But think about it, yes, you're right, as a sprint race, but equally, 60 minutes is one stint out of an endurance round.
Absolutely,
so,
I'm just going to get there.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So they're accustomed to doing an hour on a set of tyres. But
exactly. It's
an hour in an endurance race as opposed to an hour in a sprint. But of course, endurance races really are 3 one-hour sprint races, or here at Paul Ricard, 6 one-hour sprint races, or in the case of Spa, 24 one-hour sprint races.
So whether it's badged as endurance or sprint, the drivers have to be absolutely flat chat as you look at the Hong Kong China Honda NSX being overtaken. This is the view on the Mistral Straight, and the qualifying session then at an end, with the best time in the end being done by Belgium. Let's just quickly look at the order. Belgium, Australia, Germany is the order. See the margins between. 0.3 of a second, though. Dries van Thor having in hand over Matt Campbell. Belgium over Australia. Germany, Lucas Stolz 3rd. Turkey 4th from Italy, then France and Chinese Taipei, meaning Lucas Stolz 3rd, Ayushin Gavin 4th, Mirko Bortolotti, Tristan Vautier and Evan Chen ahead of Brazil's Bruno Baptista, the Moroccan driver Michael Benyaya that we didn't see much of, nor the Swiss Yannick Mettler. Only 11th, Danny Junkadea ahead of the Lithuanian Julius Adamovicius, and Mark Lee for Hong Kong China in 13th. So the order then going into the single race for the GT Sprint later on. And Dries van Voor certainly in confident mood now, as I say, going into that with not only pole position, but knowing that he's got 0.3 of a second's worth of pace in hand. But are other cars going to look after their tyres that little bit better in the course of the 1 hour? Will some cars take a little bit longer to get the tyres up to temperature? Will other cars use the tyres more energetically to start with and then lose pace as the race wears on? We'll see later on in the day. A quick look at the highlights then of that session, which began with many of the teams being selective about when they ventured out, but the tyre pressures made good for Dries van Voor, and he was setting an early pace, of course, a lap which he has done many tours of in the years of Fanatec GT. Tristan Vautier for France ending up 6th, another Mercedes looking rapid, Bruno Baptista 8th, but that curve hopping threw him off the road, and he then ended up 8th fastest. Ayşen Güven was pressing on for Turkey and put his Porsche 4th in the end. Another Porsche 2nd, that being the Australia entry of Matt Campbell. And Luca Stolz 3rd for Germany. But the grid set then for the GT Sprint. Belgium on pole position thanks to Dries van Voor. But the opposition will be snapping at his heels when we go racing.
That was our first opportunity to see the GT Sprint on track. And Darren, we would expect Belgium and Australia to be up there, but Spain further down than we would have thought.
Yeah, Juncadella, I don't think he had the best qualifying. I'm sure he'd be quite disappointed back in 11th place, but with an hour race tomorrow, you know, there's still everything to play for with that. But the qualifying, you can see the difference from yesterday's qualifying in the GT Cup race yesterday, and their qualifying session is about half a second quicker today. And that's just the level of the drivers that are racing in the sprint, being the platinum and the gold drivers there. So you can see there's that little extra bit of performance and pace. But I'm sure it's going to be a great race. You know, with these guys at the front, it should be quite feisty. It's a word I love, feisty racing. It makes it much more exciting. So let's see how that all plays out with the Sprint Cup later on this afternoon.
You were surprised that they were coming in, still checking tyres and things like that?
Yeah, I think that's a big curveball for everyone in terms of the fact that they're not using tyre heaters beforehand. So for GT racing, that's pretty much a norm, and it makes it easy for engineers to get the tyres in the right operating window. But with this weekend being without tyre heaters, they're going out, they're putting some sort of heat in